بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. At the time of the Tabi'een rahimahumullah ta'ala, which is the generation that comes after the companions, there was a person or a man known by the name Amr ibn Farqad. Amr ibn Farqad. He used to join some of the military expeditions. So every time he was on a military expedition, and this was the norm for many people. So Islam was spreading, Muslims were lifting oppression from many populations that were subjugated and were living under tyranny. So Amr ibn Farqad would join some of the military expeditions, and as they were traveling, they would camp at night. And when you camp at night, you will need some guards, some people to watch over the camp. Every group or every regiment that had Amr ibn Farqad with them, they would not appoint so many guards at night. Why? Because Amr ibn Farqad had a habit. The moment they finished Salat al-Isha, they prayed Isha, the narration goes, فَصَفَّ قَدَمَيْهِ وَقَامَ يُصَلِّي. He would straight away start his Qiyam al-Layl. All night. That was his daily thing. The whole night he would just pray. He was known for that. And just that we don't get stuck in our times, because oftentimes, by the way, we don't realize that the circumstances of our times set the stage for how we think and how we view the world. At the time, the Arabian Peninsula was full of wild animals, talking about lions, tigers, even sometimes elephants. It was full of those. Same applies to North Africa. It was full of lions, tigers, cheetah, whatever you can think about. But thanks to humans who hunted all of those down and wiped them out, and we only have a little bit left in Africa and a little bit left in India. That's it. The rest are in zoos. So at the time there was lots of wild beasts. So one day they camp at night, and they were preparing the camp. They prayed their Isha. They were making final preparations after Isha. Amr ibn Farqad started already his prayer. And it was an area where there was some forest or some woods. A while after that, they hear the roar of a lion. That was a big thing for them. You're at night, visibility is very limited. So what did they do? They would usually seek shelter, either climb some trees or hide behind some, or maybe whatever, like a cave or something. Seek some kind of hide. So the roar was there for a while, but Amr ibn Farqad was praying and he was still in his prayer. He didn't move. Well, apparently he didn't miss the sound of a lion, right? Everyone sought shelter, and seems the lion was in the vicinity, and then it left. So when the roar of the lion, people felt safe. It wasn't there anymore. People felt safe. They came out of their hide. They came back to the camp, and the guy was still praying. When he finished his salah, they said to him, you out of your mind? There was a lion in the area, and you kept just praying. Why didn't you even move? Guess what his response was? He said, he had a beautiful statement. He said, Wallahi istahyaytu min Rabbi an aqifa bayna yadayhi thumma akhafa shay'an siwahu. He said, I felt shy. I felt ashamed that I'm standing in the presence of Allah, in front of Allah, then I fear something else. I fear something other than Allah when I'm in His presence. What do we call this? What do we call this? This state, what do we call it? Put a label in it. It's definitely, there is khushu' in this, but it's much more profound than khushu'. Ihsan, yes, there is tawakkul, definitely. It's ihsan. You know what? This person, I mean, he was praying, we just prayed Isha. Did we have the same certainty, realization? Did we feel it in our gut that we are standing in the presence of Allah as he had it? I doubt. I doubt. He had more certainty about his standing in the presence of Allah than we have certainty about what we see with our own eyes. That level of certainty that he had in his gut, that this was an experience he was going through. It's not like an idea, I'm standing in front of Allah. It's not just something like that. No, it was a realization. It was a personal experience. It was a reality that he felt in his gut, that he was in front of Allah. That's a very personal experience. That's what we call ihsan. Because ihsan, the Prophet ﷺ defined ihsan to Jibreel alayhi salam. The famous hadith that we all know, that Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu narrates, بينا كنا عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أقبل رجل شديد بياض الثياب شديد سواد الشعر لا يرى عليه أثر السفر ولا يعرفه منا أحد. Umar al-Khattab says we were with the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, really, like, look at this, try to imagine the situation. Umar al-Khattab saying we are with the Prophet ﷺ, we're just having a conversation, or the Prophet ﷺ is teaching them something. One of those days with the Messenger ﷺ, like a regular day. A man walks in. A man walks in. None of us know him. None of us knows him. Meaning he's not from Medina. He's a stranger. His clothes are so white, they're so clean. And his hair is so black, like it's so clean and fresh. And none of us knows him. That's unusual. Why? Because at those times, anyone who walks into Medina, a stranger, they must have crossed a desert, right? You cross a desert, how do you look like? You're dusty, you're disheveled, you're messy, right? You don't look fresh, your clothes are not so like well done and nice and beautiful. So this caught their attention. They said, like, how come? If he were from Medina, yeah, like if he's very well dressed and he looks fresh and clean, he must be from Medina. But since he's not from Medina, he must be a stranger. But his description doesn't match the description of a stranger. That's not the state of a stranger. You'll be disheveled, messy, right? But he's not. So that caught their attention. That's what we call heightened attention. You're curious. We as humans, we learn the most when we are curious. We learn the most when we are curious. Like when you share, by the way, when you are generous with your information, it's not appreciated. We always complain, I teach, like especially with our kids. I tell my kids this, I tell my kids that, but they don't listen, right? Yes, that's when you are too generous with your information, it's not appreciated. That's how we are humans. That's how we are. So if you want someone to learn something, make them curious. Create a gap in their understanding. Now they want to fill this gap. Now they're curious. Now feed them, they would appreciate what you tell them. So don't be too generous with what you know. Create a gap. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this scenario for the companions radiyallahu anhum. He got their curiosity, their attention heightened. Why? Because he wants to teach them something that is very important about Islam. And this is one of the most important hadith in Islam. So this man comes to the Prophet ﷺ and فأسند فجلس إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأسند ركبتيه إلى ركبتيه ووضع يديه إلى فخذيه. Very interesting. The Prophet ﷺ was sitting among his companions. This man comes to the Prophet ﷺ, sits right in front of him, face to face. He puts his knees against the knees of the Prophet ﷺ. He presses his knees against the knees of the Prophet ﷺ. And he puts his hands on the thighs of the Prophet ﷺ. More curiosity now, how bold you are to do something like this, right? Everyone wants to know who this person is, what is he doing here, what is all this about, right? Everyone wants to know. Now people, so he comes to the Prophet and he says, أخبرني عن الإسلام. Tell me about Islam. Now that's even a weird question. That's a weird question. You're testing. He even spoke in a manner that showed a little bit of, like he's putting the Prophet ﷺ on the spot. Answer this question, what is Islam? The Prophet ﷺ obviously says, تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن the 5 pillars of Islam, testimony of Tawheed, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد محمد رسول الله, establish the Salah, give zakah, fast Ramadan, and you perform Hajj for those who are capable of it. He says, صدقت. He says, correct. Umar al-Khattab says, فَأَجِبْنَا لَهُ يَسْأَلُهُ وَيُصَدِّقُ like we feel puzzled. You're asking about Islam, the Prophet tells you, then you say, correct. Like you're confirming it, as if you're testing him. Like this is a scene, man. This is a scene to view. This just like this honest show of hands. Who watched the Masih, the Messiah? Honestly, put your hand up. Put your hand up. Guys, by the way, when someone says, this is not your hand up, because I don't see it. Hand up means here. Yeah, actually, okay, that's not many, which is actually, I think you watched it? What do you think about it? Is it correct or incorrect? Is it accurate? Is it accurate? Right. So he says to the Prophet, correct. He says, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَنِ الْإِيمَانِ. Tell me about Iman. The Prophet ﷺ says, أَن تُؤْمِنَ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَتُؤْمِنَ بِالْقَدَرِ خَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ. He gave him the 6 articles of faith. You believe in Allah, you believe in His books, the last day, you believe in the messengers, and you believe in or the angels, and the qada, the decree of Allah, the good and the bad, the good and the bad of it. فقال صدقت, and he says correct. فعجبنا له يسأله ويصدقه. Like again, we felt puzzled, like you're asking about something, then when you get the answer you say correct. Because if you ask, that means you're inquiring, you don't know. But now you're asking as if you're testing. And who are you testing? The Prophet ﷺ. When you test, you have some authority, right? Who tests you? Teachers. Who tests you? Authorities. So then he says, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَنِ الْإِحْسَانِ. That's what we're talking about, right? This is the guy, what's his name? The one who prayed at night and wasn't scared of the lion. What's his name? Anyone caught that? Amr ibn Farqad. Yes, Amr. So at least one person was fully awake. Amr ibn Farqad. So he says, أخبرني عن الإحسان. The Prophet ﷺ said, الإحسان أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. He says, Ihsan is that you worship Allah as though you see Him. And if you can't see Him, then He sees you. He says, Sadaqt. Correct. Again, like we're puzzled. He's asking, but then he's saying correct. He's confirming. How come? It doesn't make sense. Like this whole thing doesn't make sense right from the beginning till the end. But during this all arousal, what happens? All this information is falling through the cracks. Now, the companions would remember this like their names. They wouldn't forget that. Because it's a very, very special moment. Then he says, فَأَخْبَرْنِي عَنِ السَّاعَةِ. Tell me about the hour. Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? He didn't start talking about the hour details. He gave him the gist of it. He said, مَا الْمَسْئُولُ عَنْهَا بِأَعْلَمْ مِنَ السَّائِلِ. The one who is asked about it doesn't know more than the person who's asking. We all don't know enough about it. He says, oh, tell me about the signs, about the hour. So he told him, أن تلد الأمة ربتها وترى الحفاة العراة رعاء الشاء أو رعاء الشاء يتطاولون في البنيان. He gave him some of the signs of the nearness of the hour. Then he says, صدقت. To the end of the hadith, then the guy walks away. Now imagine this time. The man walks away, the Prophet ﷺ doesn't say anything. The companions, everyone has got every brain cell in their head is etching. It wants to know what's going on, right? Prophet ﷺ leaves it. For a while, then the Prophet ﷺ, he knows that they're trying to ask the question, but this is something about the companions of the by the way. They used to be very shy, very, very shy to ask the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, they spent time with the Prophet ﷺ, but subhanallah, despite the informality with the Messenger ﷺ, they were extremely respectful. Extremely respectful, to the point that, and I believe it was Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, the personal servant, assistant of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, كان إذا جاء رجل من البادية نفرح. That every time someone came from the Bedouins, from the nomads, came to Medina to ask the Prophet ﷺ, we would be very happy. Why? Because they ask, we are shy. فَكُنَّا نَسْتَحِي مِنْ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَحُونَ. We used to be shy of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. These guys would ask. Like, Prophet ﷺ is giving khutbah in the masjid. A man stands up and he says, Ya Muhammad, or Ya Rasulullah, مَتَى السَّاعَةِ. Like in the middle of the masjid, this man says, O Messenger of Allah, when is the hour? In the middle of the khutbah. That's how these people are. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he says, what do you call to? What is upon me? He says, you worship Allah. You believe in Allah and you worship Allah. You testify that no one has the right to be worshipped but Allah. He said, what else? He says, you pray the 5 daily prayers. He says, what else? He says, you fast Ramadan. He says, what else? He says, you give zakah. He says, what else? He says, you make hajj if you can. He says, anything other than that? He says, that's it. He says, okay, wallahi, I will do this. I will not do anything more than that. And then he walks away. The Prophet ﷺ says about him, أَفْلَحَ إِنْ صَدَقَ. Prophet ﷺ says, wallahi, if he does that, he would be successful. If he fulfills these obligations. Some narrations indicate that this man was Al-Aqra' bin Habis, or Habis bin Al-Aqra'. Al-Aqra' bin Habis, one of the companions from the Bedouins. Okay. So the point is, the Prophet ﷺ explained Islam, Iman, Ihsan. So the Prophet ﷺ now tells the companion, do you know who this person is? Now everyone is like boiling, right? They want to know, they're restless, they want to know what just happened in front of them. The Prophet ﷺ says, أَتَدْرُونَ مَنْ هَذَا؟ قَالُوا اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَعْلَمُ. Do you know who this person is? They said, Allah and His Messenger know best. We don't know. The Prophet ﷺ says, هَذَا جِبْرِيلٌ جَاءَكُمْ يُعَلِّمُكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. This is Jibreel, came to teach you your religion. Listen to the words. The Prophet ﷺ said, هَذَا جِبْرِيلٌ جَاءَ يُعَلِّمُكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. Jibreel came to teach you your religion. Now a question, did Jibreel teach them anything? Did he say anything? Did he say anything? Like, did he give them any piece of information, Jibreel? Did he tell them, did Jibreel say Islam is that you testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, you establish the prayer? Did he say that? Jibreel didn't say. Jibreel asked questions. The Prophet ﷺ said Jibreel came to teach you your religion. So one of the best ways to teach, to ask questions. Ask questions. And that's very important. If you want to arouse people's attention and people's curiosity, you want to suggest something, you want to give someone advice, and you suspect it will fall on deaf ears, ask a question. Do you know who applied this advice? Two young children who will become, the Prophet ﷺ described them, Sayyida Shabab al-Jannah. These will be the best of the youth in Jannah. Al-Hasan al-Husayn, the grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ. They saw outside the masjid an older person making wudu. He wasn't making wudu properly. He was missing some parts of his probably arms or face. He wasn't making wudu the way he should. They thought to themselves, if we were to approach him directly, he would say, you're still kids, you're going to teach me? Or at least we all have an ego. We're human beings, right? So we feel offended. We feel offended. So they thought, what's the best way of teaching him? They decided to be suggestive. Teach him this way. So they said, Uncle, we're having a competition. I'm having a competition with my brother. Who makes wudu better than the other? And we want you to judge. And he said, okay, go ahead. You guys make wudu. They started making wudu in front of him. And when he looked at both of them, they did very good wudu. He said, well, both of you make wudu better than me. And apparently he fixed his wudu. That's respectful. That's suggestive. So Jibreel alayhi salam taught the Muslims their religion by way of what? Asking questions. The Prophet ﷺ answered those. But it's not only the questions, it's the whole context. It gets you very hooked. You're curious, you want to learn. So the point is, the Prophet ﷺ explained the three levels of the religion. Islam, which are the external actions. By the way, like Islam, Iman, Ihsan are not independent circles. They're not independent circles. They're very well interconnected. They're very well interconnected. But Islam specifically refers to the external, visible aspects of Islam. Salah, when you perform your salah. When you're fasting, still it's visible. When you're doing Hajj, it's visible. When you're reciting Quran in public, it's visible, right? These are the external actions. But these external actions have a spirit. Spirit is Iman. Spirit is Iman. Iman is what? Is that you truly believe in Allah and the 6 articles of faith. So Iman is essentially in the heart. But Islam and Iman, they mix together, they overlap. There's an overlapping area, huge overlapping area. The highest level of the religion is Ihsan. And Ihsan, the more Islam, meaning external actions you do, and the more you grow your faith, Iman, the more. All of this is going to take you eventually to a high level of certainty, a personal experience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the point that you experience personally that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. You feel Allah throughout your life, throughout your 24 hours. That's what Ihsan is. It's this heightened awareness of Allah. And let me explain it to you or share it with you slightly differently. There is one of At-Tabi'in. One of At-Tabi'in, his name is Khalid ibn Ma'dan. Khalid ibn Ma'dan was originally from Yemen, and then he migrated to Syria, and he settled in Homs. And he died in Homs. He was a very, very knowledgeable person. He said, ما من إنسان إلا وجعل الله له أربع أعين. ما من إنسان إلا وجعل الله له أربع أعين. عينان في رأسه في وجهه وعينان في قلبه. فإن أراد الله بعبده خيرا فتح له عيناه التي في قلبه. He says Allah gave every human being 4 eyes. Every human being is given 4 eyes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 2 eyes in the face and 2 eyes in the heart. 2 eyes in the heart. If Allah wants to give good to a person, Allah will open these eyes, 2 eyes that are in the heart. It is with these eyes that we develop ihsan. Why? These are the eyes we can see Allah with. Because with these 2 eyes, we can't see Allah in this world. We can't. We can't see Allah in this world with these 2 eyes, physical eyes. We can't. But how can we see Allah? We can see Allah with the 2 eyes in our heart. And this is what yaqeen is about. This is what we call yaqeen. You know, when you see Allah with the 2 eyes in your heart, which is yaqeen, you become more certain of that than you are holding this bottle in your hands. Yes, you become more certain. Why? Because essentially we humans, the reality of a human being is in the heart. Who we are is the heart. Our physical body is alone, by the way. It's a temporary vehicle. It's a temporary vehicle. And we can only get so much sensation and experience through our physical body. The most profound and real human experience is what we have in the heart. But most of us are paying attention outward. Most of us are hooked into our physical being, our 5 senses. Why? Because we're paying attention to the world. So much to the world. Whatever is happening outside, most of our attention is going outside. We're not having any attention going inside. So what happens? Our hearts go dormant. You know, they do experiments with animals. So they did an experiment with kitten, small kitten. They would bandage one of the eyes of a kitten shortly after its birth. They would block it, would put some plaster on it, block it for 3-4 weeks. Then they would take the bandage off. And guess what? The eye cannot see afterwards. It dies. It grows dormant. Why? Because it wasn't used. It wasn't used. There are a very small number of cases where it could start picking up vision. But for most of the kitten, it dies for good. The eye is gone. Why? It was denied growth. Why? Because it was not used. That's what we do with our hearts. The moment we're born, so much external stimulation, so many colors, so many things, so much attention, humans, now devices, stuff, attention, you have to keep up with the world, you have to chase this, you have to chase that, and this whole thing, FOMO thing, right? Fear of missing out. You want to be part of everything, you want to catch up with everything, you want to watch everything, you want to do everything, you want to play all the games. You can't keep up with the world, right? So our attention is completely consumed outward. The problem is, what happens with that, our hearts die. We don't realize there's an experience inside. There is an experience. There's the heart has a life of its own. It does. It does have. And in order for you to experience it, you have to go inward. You just have to go inward. There's no other experience. I can tell you about taqwa. I can tell you about ihsan. And that's the problem that we have a huge problem relating to concepts like ihsan. Do you know why? It's a personal experience. If you don't have a first-hand experience, you don't understand it. You cannot. The scholars have, when they spoke about stations of the heart, for example, they spoke about al-hub, al-mahabba, loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said any definition you put on mahabba, it mystifies it further. Even taqwa. Why? They say because the only definition of these states is actually experiencing them. If you don't experience them, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just borrowing some words and pretending that you know what you're talking about, but you actually don't. This is experiential knowledge. I'll give you a very simple example because, again, because of our attention is physical, so when I give a physical example, it sort of makes sense, makes more sense. Let's say you've never been on a bicycle, never ridden a bicycle in your life. And I give you books about how to ride a bicycle. And you are, let's say, 25. First time you lay your hands on a bicycle, I say go and ride it. You've never been on something that runs on two wheels. And you've read 10 books on how to ride a bicycle. Do you think you can balance on a bicycle? First few attempts? No. Why? You've read 10 books on it. How come? You have to get on the bicycle. You have to start falling on both sides to experience imbalance, to know firsthand what that means. Then by knowing imbalance, then you start to get a feel of what balance actually means, and then you start developing a distinction between imbalance and balance. So you have a feel about what balance means and what imbalance means. And when you are balanced and you start falling off balance, you start to feel sensation. That's when you will know what riding a bicycle is. That's it. The books are nothing. Lip service. That's exactly what Ihsan is. That's exactly, you can read all the books on Ihsan. You worship Allah as if you know Him. And if you don't know Him, or as if you see Him. If you don't see Him, then He sees you. Okay, what does that even mean? Tell me, give me any functional benefit out of this. We all read this from a young age. You worship Allah as if you see Him. Okay, but if you don't see Him, well obviously you don't see Him, then He sees you. Okay, He sees me, then what? Business as usual. You go about doing your stuff, nothing changes. So how do we get Ihsan? And you look at the Quran, Ihsan pops up so many times. Allah says when He describes paradise, especially the highest levels, Allah says, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. Is the reward for such a high level of excellence but an excellent reward? Such high quality reward? That's how Allah rewards. Then Allah says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah loves those who achieve ihsan, excellence. So what is this level that we're talking about? This Amr ibn Farqad, the guy, Amr ibn Farqad who was praying at night. How did he get to a point where he was experiencing this conversation, this meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a point that it was more compelling to him than an experience that would blow you out of your mind, which is a lion being in the area. You know, the survival kicks in. In that state, you know what people do? They give up. Like if even a parent, if you have a child, you would just run away and leave the child, but you want to survive. For most people. It is so compelling, but imagine, how could you override such a thing? Because you are attending to a bigger reality. I'll give you another example of someone who had ihsan. Musa alayhi salam, when he came to Fir'aun and he obviously shared the message with Fir'aun, responded with denial and challenge, and they appointed a day where Musa alayhi salam was supposed to show his miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him as evidence of the truth of his message. And Fir'aun brought all the best magicians who were originally from the children of Israel. So he was abusing them, he was subjugating them, and he was using them to further establish his tyranny and his rule over them. And still they were working for him. That's how humans work against themselves. So eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows the truth and the power of the miracle of Musa alayhi salam. The magicians believe. Fir'aun challenges them and he threatens to kill them, cut off their hands and their feet, etc. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Musa alayhi salam the instructions to leave in the night. First, before Fajr, before dawn, leave, run away, flee. Because Fir'aun is going to catch you and kill you, all of you. So Musa alayhi salam takes those new believers and they run out of Egypt. Fir'aun chases them with all of his soldiers and he catches them. Why? Because they are cornered, they're stuck. The ocean is right in front of them, it's a dead end. Behind, they look behind, Fir'aun with all of his troops. They're outnumbered, they don't have any weapons, they can't defend themselves. Speaking about the world that we attend to 100% of our time, which is when we say, hey, get real. Deal with the facts on the ground, right? You know, by the numbers, the chances are what? 0. By talking about the facts on the ground, they don't have any chances. Why? Because the ocean is in front of them, they can't swim, they can't survive in the ocean. Behind them is Fir'aun, there's no other way to go. What are they supposed to do? That's what they said, because they were attending, like most of us, attending to reality, to the physical reality, which we think is reality, but that's only a small percentage of reality. That's when Ihsan comes in, because Ihsan gives you access to this world of the unseen, which is a bigger version of reality, which we tend to neglect. We live in denial to it. Why? Because we are obsessed with what's in front of our eyes, to the point that we miss what's real, but we can't see. There is more than what meets the eye to reality. So when they see Fir'aun and his troops, what do they say? فَلَمَّا تَرَاءَ الْجَمْعَانِ قَالَ أَصْحَابُ مُوسَى إِنَّا لَمُدْرَكُونَ. When they could see each other, they said, that's it, we're caught. We're done. There's no way. They said it in full, complete despair. Musa alayhi salam, he was coming from a different world. This was a man who could not only see the spectrum of reality that we see, which is a tiny one, it's a tiny range, small range. He could see more than that. He had access to the world of the unseen. Why? Because he developed his 2 eyes that are in the heart. So he could see more. He could see more. So what did he say? He says, كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. You can imagine people are saying, we're caught. So it's panic. It's a sense of helplessness. There's no hope. We're done. Musa alayhi salam, like he was chilling at the moment. He's saying, Kalla, inna ma'i rabbi. He was confident. He says, no, my Lord is with me. He's going to give me a way out. He's going to give me a way out. Like for them, it doesn't make sense. But again, that's what ihsan is. Why? Because you live in the world, you deal with the world, but your heart sees Allah. Your heart sees Allah. That's the difference. You know, sometimes when they say troops jump into like a battlefield or in a and they can only see, for example, the reality in front of them. They have their commander in their operation rooms where they have the radars, cameras, they've got surveillance, everything, and they give them instructions, right? Through the wireless. Why? Because when you are dealing with reality, you can only see what you can see right in front of you. But your commander sees a far bigger reality, right? There's a whole map, and he sees all the roads in, out, where the dead ends are, where the enemy is. You can't see none of that. Musa alayhi salam was acting like this, but his radar was what? His heart that was connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he could see a fuller spectrum of reality. So he says, no, my Lord is with me, He's going to give me a way out. Now Musa alayhi salam had no clue what the way out was, by the way. But he was chill. Why? Because I know it's Allah, and like you're dealing with Allah. You're dealing with Allah. For us, yeah, but you know, the numbers don't add up. That's the problem. Because you paid so much attention outside, you have missed the tool that gives you access to what is beyond the physical world. So we don't have ihsan. We don't have ihsan. The Prophet ﷺ had something similar. When he was chased out of Mecca with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, right? And they were going to Medina. They head south to Ghar. Where did they hide? Ghar what? Which cave? Ghar Thawr. Ghar Thawr. They were hiding. And by the way, this cave is not like a cave you walk in straight. No, it's a hole in the ground. You jump in. It's like a hole. It's a pit inside. So they were hiding in there. It was small. If anyone's been there, it's small. It can hardly take 2 people, by the way. It's not like deep where you can hide. No, you're in the hole. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was petrified because a group from Quraysh came to that spot and they were standing right on top of it. Abu Bakr was shaking. The Prophet ﷺ says, "What's wrong with you, Abu Bakr?" He says, "Ya Rasulullah, wallahi, law nadara ahaduhum ila mawdi'i qadamayhi lara'ana." He says, "Messenger of Allah, wallahi, if any one of them looks at their own feet, he's going to see that. He's going to see us. Will spot us." The Prophet ﷺ tells him what? "Ma dhannuka bithnayn, Allahu thalithuhuma." What do you think about 2 people? Allah lies with them. He's not concerned. He wasn't even concerned. There wasn't even fear or even stress or worry. Why? Ihsan. Ihsan. His eyes were in the heart. His heart eyes could see beyond that. They could see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what faith takes us to. Okay, now, why is it difficult for us to have ihsan? I want to get you involved. Why is it difficult for us to have ihsan? Put your hands up, so, yeah. So when we run into problems, our faith weakens. Well, it's... Yeah, so the question is, how do we get to that faith? By having true belief. How do we get true belief? That's the question. Close. Who can take that further, or who can add to it? How do we develop ihsan, honestly?
You practice like with the bike, so you have to...
Practice. Very good. That's a very good opening, yes. Practice what? Carry on. Don't leave us halfway. Ilm what? Because there are people who memorize the Quran, people learnt a lot, but it's in the head. How? No, which is a bad idea. If you don't calculate situation, we don't want to detach from, we don't want to disconnect from reality. No. We become, yeah, because, by the way, we attend to reality. That's a given. But we don't get stuck by reality, and that's what we're talking about. But how? Yes, we have faith, but I have a problem with having faith, because you can't just have faith, right? How do I have faith? That's what we're trying to do. Because faith, the more faith you have, you get to a point of ihsan. The higher, because any level of faith has some ihsan, but we want to get to the highest so we have ihsan. Practice tawakkul. Yeah, but give me something I can work on. So how do I practice tawakkul?
It's not there yet.
Okay. Huh? Good. All of these answers are good, by the way. But forgive me, these are cliche answers. We all can, I believe most of us can even say that. But the thing is, what do I do with this? How do I get there? What am I doing wrong that this is not actually paying off? Because you have people doing what we're talking about, but again, when we are hit by hardship, we realize our faith is weak. So, let me give the sisters, okay, sisters are gonna... Okay.
I step back, and it's that one time you step back and you wait for the result basically from Allah, and then you keep on doing that again and again. There's going to be some point where you say, okay, actually this is working.
So how do I develop ihsan out of this? That's my question. How do we develop ihsan? It seems like slippery, right? It seems like, okay, saying have faith, have trust in Allah, put your trust in Allah. How? That's what I'm talking about. How? How? That's not wrong. There's a correct answer, but it's how? صحيح. العلم بالله. I agree with you. Fully agree with that. But how? طيب, someone break that rhythm that we already have so far. That's a very good start. That's a very good start. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you ask truly. You ask truly, and you don't give up on asking. You keep asking, you keep asking, you keep begging, and you know of your own self you can't get it. And unless Allah gives it to you, you're not going to have it, you're not going to experience it. You show your neediness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you show your helpless state. That's a good beginning, but it doesn't take you all the way. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just takes you by the hand all the way, that would be a very special, there would be something very special about you. But again, so that's a good start. So we're having some progress.
Self-knowledge and clarity, understanding our limitations.
Yeah.
And then just giving in and opening up to Allah. And having that self-knowledge about our own state.
You started right, but then you were up to something, but then you just okay. You actually started. You had a good start, but then okay. Last two shots. You do good deeds that don't give you value, don't pay off here. So okay. But you could get something from that, right? You could get recognition. You could get. Okay, you can do anything with that intention then. How do you soften your heart? We're back to the drawing board. That's not, by the way, none of the answers we received so far is wrong. I'm just saying, we want something that gives us leverage. Something gives us leverage. Because that's where most people are, most of us are stuck. All right? Okay, final, last shot, and then we'll, yes, yeah. Sincerity in what sense? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's not incorrect answer, but another cliche answer. Again, okay, Jazakumullah khair. Again, none of these is incorrect, by the way. Just don't feel like frustrated if you said something. Don't feel frustrated. It's just, we're looking for something that is going to give us a lot of leverage. That's what we're looking for. I have to give a fair chance to the sisters. There's one sister who has her hand up, so I have to give her an exception. Go ahead. Well, definitely. You do more deeds, voluntary deeds, they do help. But again, we're talking about the leverage. All of that, Qiyam al-Layl, you almost got there, but again stopped. Qiyam al-Layl is very special, by the way. Very special among all the deeds. And there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the early stages of the Islamic da'wah made Qiyam al-Layl an obligation. At the beginning, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila. That's in the early stages. All you who are shrouded in his own blanket, stand up, pray at night, all of the night, or just except for a little bit. Obligation. There's something about Qiyam al-Layl because it is very selfless. It softens the heart, it does. Okay, I tell you why most of us get stuck with ihsan and we don't promote ourselves to a higher level, is that we do it all in our heads. You can't think your way to ihsan. You can't. You can learn as much information as you want. You can think about it as much as you want. Ihsan does not come from your brain. It's not a thought. It's not a thought. You don't think it. You don't put thoughts together. You don't engineer ihsan, by the way. No matter how intelligent you are, you cannot engineer ihsan by your thoughts. That's the problem. And that's why I told you, we have an experience in the heart that is different than what we experience in our heads, by the way. It's a different experience. You have to engage with it firsthand. It's different. It's categorically different. It feels different. It produces something different. Honestly, it produces something different. That's where ihsan comes from. Your heart connects, you know what? The heart connects to the unseen. That's what the heart does. Look at it. Allah gave you these two parts. You have your body, which is part of a nafs, which is part of your logic. Your logical thinking is part of it, by the way. Your aql, basic aql, is part of it. It is designed to help you live life on earth. You understand physics, math, chemistry, gravity, economics, finance. You understand it with your nafs, which is your logical brain, your mathematical brain, which is your physical life, etc. But you also have another element to your existence, and that's the soul. That's the heart. That's where your fitrah comes from. You know where most people go wrong with the soul? Because we've done just like they did with the eye of the kitten. It's so dormant, we don't even, you know what, most people reduce the soul. This is where most people go wrong with the soul. Most people think the soul is like an electric wire, like you plug it in a socket, you just get electricity. They think the soul just gives energy to the body to move around, and then the body and the brain does everything. No. The soul is an element. It has a life of its own. It has an experience of its own. It has feelings of its own. It has ideas, thoughts of its own. It has ideas of its own. Our love of Allah you cannot think it. It's not a function of your brain. It's not. It's already in your heart. It's in your fitrah, in your spiritual essence. When you access your heart, you're going to find you love Allah already. That's your fitrah. Ihsan, knowledge about Allah, certainty about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's already in your heart, it's put inside of you. All you have to do is acknowledge it, then realize it. What do I mean by realize it? Experience it. Acknowledge there is a spiritual side to you, there's a fitrah, there's a heart to you, it has a life of its own. Go into it. It's not a thought, it's a knowing. It's there, you know it. This is why it's slippery. Most people are very uncomfortable with this, I know. Why? Because throughout our lives, it's all about what? Read about it, you understand it. Think about it, you understand it. Play with it, you understand it. Yes, that applies to matters of this world, but matters of the heart cannot be understood this way. Cannot be understood. Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he explained how the companions, radiyallahu anhum, they used to handle their hearts. He said, كانوا يعودون بالتفكر على التذكر وبالتذكر على التفكر ويناطقون القلوب حتى نطقت. He said about the companions, they used to resort to tafakkur and tadhakkur. Tafakkur, okay, I'm not going to explain tafakkur and tadhakkur, but I have a point here. Then he says, then they entice the hearts to speak. Pay attention to that. They provoke their hearts to speak. وَيُنَاطِقُونَ الْقُلُوبِ. In another word of it, وَيَسْتَنْطِقُونَ الْقُلُوبِ. You know what that means? In istintaq in the Arabic language is like when you trying to get someone to speak. Someone is holding off, and you engage them in a conversation, and you keep coming at them from here and there until you get them to speak. You get them to say what they have inside. That's how the companions treated their hearts. وَيُنَاطِقُونَ الْقُلُوبِ. They get the hearts to speak. In a narration, وَيُنَاطِقُونَ الْقُلُوبَ حَتَّى نَطَقَتْ. They entice their hearts to speak until their hearts spoke. The other narration goes, فَإِذَا الْقُلُوبُ لَهَا أَسْمَاعٌ وَأَبْصَارٌ. It turns out the hearts have eyesight and hearing. What is this? That's not in the mind. That's another experience. That's what ihsan is. That's what ihsan is. Ihsan means you access your heart. You pay attention. That's why he said you were off to a good start, but then you sort of plateaued, right? It was a very good start. Introspection, reflection. You turn into your heart. You turn into your heart. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives guidance. That's the same mechanism. Allah says, فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Allah says, when Allah wants to guide someone, what does Allah do? Allah expands his chest for Islam. That's not, Allah doesn't say Allah convinces him or her. There's no convincing here. It's not an intellectual thing. It's not an intellectual thing. And we might think, hey, this is just play on words. It's not, it's serious. It is serious. If you think Iman is a thought, that's a problem. Do you know who thought this way? The Murji'ah. The Murji'ah. You know, we have in Islam those deviant sects. We have the Khawarij on one end of the spectrum. On the opposite end, we have the Murji'ah. What did the Murji'ah say? They were the enemies of Ahlul Sunnah. What did they say? Yeah, but they said al-imanu huwa at-tasdiq. They said al-iman at-tasdiq. They said iman is mental acknowledgement. What does it mean? Yeah, Muhammad is a prophet. Yeah, he's a prophet. I'm convinced. Quran is from Allah. Yes. Allah exists. Yes, I acknowledge that intellectually. That's it. End of story. That's not. Ahlul Sunnah said that's not iman. This is mental acknowledgement. This is not iman. Iman comes in the heart. It's in the soul. It's in the soul. That's what ihsan is. That's where taqwa is. That's where khushu' is. That's where the sweetness of iman is. Because, by the way, in your mind, in your logical mind, even scientifically, explain to me how do you get sweetness of iman in your mind? Through thoughts? Thoughts give sweetness? Not at all. It's the spirit, it's the soul. Sweetness comes from the spirit. It comes from the spirit. That's what ihsan is. That's what ihsan is. And that's why Qiyam al-Layl helps a lot. Why? It's a matter of taste. Qiyam al-Layl is a matter of taste more than anything else. More than anything else. It's a taste. You're entering into an experience with the invisible to your eyes. And you're investing time and nights and hours and attention in something that is invisible. So you are exercising your spiritual side. When you exercise your spiritual side, you activate it. The more you invest more in the invisible, This is why you had a good point when you said you engage with deeds that don't pay off. Worldly payoff kind of thing. You do something that is completely spiritual. The payoff is spiritual. There's nothing that could come your way that is worldly. No payoff in this world. Why? Because with this you guarantee, hey, I'm not exercising my mind, I'm not exercising my social aspect and recognition, I'm not exercising my even intellectual intellectual side of who I am. Because, by the way, intellectualism is very satisfying, right? Ideas, processing our ideas. That's why philosophy is very captivating. Why? Because it's exercise of your mind, exercise of your mind. No, you do something where only your heart engages with. Qiyam al-Layl is a very special one, by the way. Tell you what, one of the keys to the heart, engaging the heart, something if you do consistently, somehow, it's like an electric shock that jump starts your heart, brings it back to life. Shukr. Gratitude. Because gratitude is not a matter of thought, it's a matter of soul. It is so selfless, it's so deep, by the way. It is so deep. We don't appreciate thankfulness, by the way. We don't appreciate thankfulness enough. You know what Allah says? The only people who see the signs of Allah and understand them, Allah says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. The only ones who truly see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ones who have two things. Sabr and shukr. So sabr and shukr is not just something you do, it changes who you are inside, it changes your makeup inside, makes you a completely different person. And tomorrow we're going to talk about shukr, by the way. That's a way to slip it in. Yeah, tomorrow we have a full day on shukr. So this is actually one point we're going to talk about. So, yeah. So the reason why we try and we're not getting ihsan is that we are trying to perform religious matters, religious engagements, knowledge, only here. You need to get this activated. You need to get this engaged. You need to let the Quran connect with this. That's when the Quran does its magic, by the way. So, that's the way to get to ihsan. I know you might say, give me steps. I'm telling you, there's no steps. Connect. Realize there is something inside of you, there's a spiritual aspect, it has a life of its own. Where can you find it? No one knows but you. How? No one knows but you. I'm telling you, it's a very personal experience. That's your essence, that's who you are. And you know what? You can. But you don't want to. At some level, you don't want to. You might tell me, but I want to on the surface. I'm honest with you. You know why? Because the moment, and this is what Yahya ibn Mu'adh, one of the great of the-tabi'een, he said, people will come to yaqadha, which is awakening, which is basically the soul. You awaken the soul when they die. When we are dying, now we're ready to connect to our souls. When it's too late. But we actually connect to our souls. So throughout your life you could. But why now? Because now you came face to face with your mortality. If you decide, it's a matter of, that's why when somebody said sincerity, yes, but it was not presented, it was not framed right. Sincerity is that I'm sincere. I want to know what my heart is. I want to know what's in this heart. I want to know what this soul is about. I want to connect to it. And just like you had to experience balance and imbalance firsthand, you have to experience what it feels to be connected to your heart and what it feels to be out of tune with your heart. No one can tell you. I can't. You know, if I tell you, if I explain that to you, it would be like me doing push-ups for you. Who's going to get the benefit? Who's going to get muscle? Me. You can, by the way, pay me to do push-ups for you, and I will get the benefit, I will get the money as well. That's exactly. So if I tell you that's how the soul feels, that's how the heart feels, and when you weighted more in your self side, in your ego side, that's how it feels, okay, that makes no sense. This is a territory you have to go into to feel and to know what it means. Who has ever been to Taiwan? Okay. You have an idea of what Taiwan is, right? You have an idea of what Taiwan is, etc. No. Fine. But you don't even care about how many times in your life Taiwan even came up. Maybe a handful of times, right? But If I tell you, hey, let's say you work with a company and they want to give you a promotion, it's a huge promotion, you're going to get 3 times your salary, there's a huge kind of like payoff from that, but you're going to be stationed in Taiwan for the next 5 years. How do you feel about Taiwan now? You want to learn everything about Taiwan. You're going to go into Taiwan. You're going to learn about, you probably even learn the language. You will. Now, when you go to Taiwan, you feel what Taiwan is. But if you read about Taiwan, by the way, for years, you would not know what Taiwan really is until you go and live there. Same thing, you would not know about Ihsan unless you are ready to go to the land of Ihsan. The land of Ihsan is this. This, your heart. Most of us, we feel unsafe going there. We want to still be here. Why? Because here you can calculate. Here you can have some level of certainty. But unless you let go of this, you can't go here. That doesn't mean being dumb, by the way. No. It means striking a balance. Again, that's the closest I can go in this short time. طيب, Jazakumullah khair. May Allah reward you for your patience. Jazakumullah khair. These topics are not easy to listen to, I understand. Barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. Jazakumullah khair for the Masjid Richmond and for the brothers here and for the committee. Barakallahu feekum for this opportunity.